Hi, I'm Larry Dignan. I'm with Constellation Insights, and we're here with Niraj Patel. He is CIO of Greystone. It's a multifamily lender and the biggest commercial real estate business in the U.S. Thanks for joining us, Niraj. I guess let's just walk through your role and what you do at Greystone.
My name's Niraj Patel. I'm the Chief Information Officer for Greystone. It's an interesting job. As you would expect today, most challenges of CIOs is not about the technology. It's all about adoption. It's all about change management. And it's all about value creation. How do you kind of bring that technology in, get the productivity gains for the customer, which is what's driving everything. The great thing is, unlike other industries, well, I'm in the financial services industry, which is slower today because of the market conditions, but the tech pace is obviously 10 times its rate.
Right.
Which is helping us manage a lot of new things for.
And I guess what's the approach when you're in commercial real estate, and just how does the cultural meets tech thing go?
Slow.
It just goes.
It's just slow. Think about real estate as financial services in real estate is very specific because unlike other financial services, real estate tends to be a leverage game. Mm-hmm. So if I can arm my sales folks with better information and technology so they can provide you a better rate, because when you're doing a $10 million loan, the rate's probably the most critical thing. The technology is nice, don't get me wrong, but if I can arm them with better information and better insights to tweak the rate better, because it's more ESG compliant, because it's more green, all these variables that exist in the market today.
Right. So previously in your career, you've had a lot of different roles, and a lot of time that's touched AI, especially recently in your career. I guess what's your take on generative AI or just AI in general and how it applies to commercial real estate? Excitement.
If you had to sum it up in one way, exciting, and the potential is amazing. AI has been around in real estate for a while. My first project was in 2012, where we started using it for predicting what we call energy usage in a building. Large, massive buildings. How can we change the energy curve, use all the data, and forecast better? Then it evolved into how do we use visual AI better? How do we use natural language processing better? You rolled out chatbots, you rolled out different things. I used to work for IBM, so from Watson and different places, how we used natural language processing to augment our contact center agent with more data because it would rip through the audio files and do wonderful things. Now, the cool part is all those pieces working together and creating a generative product. So do we want to use it to create more streamlined forms, more streamlined data about the real estate? And how can I help my underwriters and all my people accelerate that base, but also widen the data set? Today, we're looking at a data set that comes in. I can actually widen the data set.
How would you widen it?
An example would be today when we do a property inspection, we actually have an inspector go out. There's a form that's filled out with pictures and a video sometimes. Now we would like to actually analyze the video, get more data out of the video, how many appliances are there, what year they were manufactured, how's the walls doing, what's the structures doing, and add that level of data and granularity to the inspection.
So when you look at the chatbot versus generative AI thing, how do you avoid bot sprawl? Or is it a case of changing out the engine? Or I guess how do you think through managing? If you've already invested in bots and you have ChatGPT, which is kind of witty, good writer, or Bard, or any Google Cloud, anything, how do you manage that sprawl?
I think you try to put some guardrails around it. How can you make sure that you're utilizing the data set? So more generative AI now that's coming out is more directed towards your data set versus all the open data sets, which is going to help kind of control it a little bit better. And making sure that it's in a contained environment versus just any data sets that's out there. Now, from a utilization point of view, how do we accelerate that to be more individualistic? Because you want those chatbots today that are more generic, help me do a PTO or help me do this, to actually coming down to your level and having more interaction with you specifically. And that's going to take a little bit more doing, but that's probably going to be more valuable than today we have these generic kind of like what I call horizontal ones. Eventually they'll become more vertical and more specific to you. And how do we kind of enable that?
Right.
And contain it. But we don't want it to be everywhere, right? So we don't want it to have all access to all data sets, good and bad. We want it to have good enterprise data that it's accessing.
So is that a case of you take a base foundational LLM model and then bring in your own data and add to it? I guess what's the art of what's off the shelf versus what you have to do?
So an example in my industry, in real estate, off the shelf is data about the building. Hey, I can get it from Google. I know what the building is. How many units are in there, right? What's around there? Is there coffee shops in that building? So I have general data that's available that I can get from the outside world. Financial data on that building is in my domain. I know what the rents are. I know what the rent roll is. I know what the financials are. I know what the underwriting is.
Right.
So how do I augment it now into that level? So I need horizontal data because that's important because I need to know what's going on in that metro, but I also need very specific data into that building that I control as well as others control. So in our ecosystem.
Does that mean it'll be part cloud, part your own data centers? I guess what's that look like? Because you know, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, they're all over this stuff.
They are, and I think it's unknown yet. We have some ideas of where it could go. In my ecosystem, I have a property manager that has their own software. I'm a lender. I have my own software. So there is differences between where they're running theirs, where I'm running mine. Also, what needs to be on-prem versus off-prem, what needs to be mobile maybe. It's unclear yet, it's evolving. So an example would be, I probably want more processing power on the inspection on the mobile device, and I want to do it on the edge. But then when that data comes in, do I want the full data set, or do I just want the data that's required for data that's more actionable versus not?
Okay.
So hard answer. I don't think it's clear yet, but hopefully that gives you a flavor of where we're thinking.
So I guess that gets me down to vendor management. Like how do you think about picking vendors in this space? Or is it still the hodgepodge you're always going to have?
So it's going to be your top 2 or top 3. Pick the ones. For me, we have a lot of data on the Microsoft stack. It's hard not to use their platform because I'm already on it. 95% of my environment's in that environment today. But that doesn't mean we don't dabble with Google. That doesn't mean we don't try some AWS things. And we do. We've done some pilots with Google on their Doc AI product. So all across the board, but I don't think you want to have too many. Right. I'm not saying you don't need all big ones, because all big ones could be a problem. You need some smaller ones. So we do test out with smaller players like Capacity and other ones. So it's a combination. The only thing I say is kind of break it up between small, medium, and large, but don't do too many. Then it's just hard to manage.
Right.
And make sure that whatever you select has a good integration layer so we can move the data back and forth.
What do you get out of a small vendor? Or a startup? At speed. Speed,
maybe a little bit more innovative thinking, but speed is the best piece of it. Not to say that the big boys aren't catching up, but the little guys still have speed. And the way I think about smaller players is they're more functional in nature. I got a feature or a function that's popping out with them. It's more specific, like that inspection example would be, I pick a smaller player on that inspection, but I may use a Microsoft or Google to do the video analytics around it because they have more broader data sets.
Right.
So it's like, hey, but I want that capture ability that the startup's going to be able to do better.
Okay. What would you say to humans who are worried about generative AI?
Get ahead of it. Get in front of it. You brought up something that's interesting. So I still remember, and I got gray hair, so we kind of been in this industry for a long time, right? So I still remember creating classes to teach people how to use a mouse.
Oh, wow.
When the PC came out, right? So we all have gone through these transitions.
Right.
This is just another transition. And the more we can get our people educated, the more they'll be comfortable with the technology and knowing what to do and what to not to do with it. So that example is real. We all, can you imagine we had a few, if we talk about any of the new generation and we say, oh, we had classes on training on how to use a mouse, they would look at us like we got two heads, right? They're like, what do you mean?
Or life before the smartphone.
Or life before the smartphone, yep. So I think a lot of that's going to be where it's going to head up. So the question is, what's that mouse training that we have to provide to our people with the new tool sets, and how do we do that?
Right. All right. Anything I didn't ask that I should have?
Should we be scared?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I mean, I'm a person who thinks Terminator is a documentary, so we'll see how it turns out.
I agree. But I'm so optimistic. I think there's some amazing things that'll come out of this technology, right? So, and the fear is always there, but I think the value from what we've seen has been far greater than the fear.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
All right, Larry. Thank you.